How Gen Z is staging a global revolution. This video popped up on my recommended, and just seeing a new episode of One Piece, I'm not gonna lie, that shit made me cry, bro. Like, I dead ass cried, like bawling, my nigga. And it wasn't even like something sad, it was just powerful. And like, this shit, I guess it has like the One Piece theme, and it's like lining up with real. Fuck it, I'm gonna just get into it. And I love hearing shit like that, because I feel like our generation definitely is pushing forward a lot of shit.
There's an interesting trend happening in the world today of full-scale revolutions or political demonstrations initiated primarily by the younger generations, like Gen Z. And although it isn't necessarily unusual to see big changes happening in the world like that, I think that something that's interesting about these recent wave revolutions compared to the past is that lately we've seen the same symbol of unity and solidarity reoccurring. This, of course, if you've been keeping up, is the Jolly Roger of the Straw Hat Pirates from One Piece, which, as of the time of recording this video, has appeared in dozens of protests from countries all around the world. From Nepal, where Gen Z protesters flying One Piece flags literally overthrew their government.
America next. He pushing unnecessary stuff for real. What they talk about? What Yee? I don't know what Yee is. Yee. This shit, America next, bro. I'm telling you, cause the way shit going.
Force the Prime Minister to abdicate to different movements and protests in Indonesia, Mexico, Madagascar, France, the Philippines, and even popping up with certain demonstrations in the United States. Gen Z is really
pushing
rallying
unnecessary
around this
stuff, to
symbol
be honest.
specifically as a
Facts.
banner of revolution or as a demonstration of the cultural unity and alignment of our generation. What makes this all the more interesting to me is that none of it was orchestrated or organized either. There's no central influence telling young people to fly this flag. There isn't even an official movement or leader or cause to rally around. This symbol is just spread organically, almost instinctively, through shared culture, shared frustration, and shared hope. Almost as if young people all across the globe reach the same conclusion independently. If no one is going to represent us, we'll represent ourselves. And so they picked a symbol that already meant something to them. A symbol tied to freedom, loyalty, and fighting for a better world, even when the odds are impossible. A symbol from a story that shaped their childhoods and carried them into adulthood. Something that we as a generation, having grown up at the same time in the same world, can bond over and relate with. And suddenly the Straw Hat flag isn't just a fictional emblem anymore. It's become a real banner of courage, a rallying point for people who feel unheard, and a reminder that even ordinary individuals can stand up and challenge entire systems when change is needed.
Facts.
Around the world, we're seeing this flag raised by students who want a future, by workers demanding dignity, and by citizens exhausted with corruption, censorship, and inequality.
All of that shit is happening in the US, bro. All of it. Every single thing that he just said is happening in the US. The school system is shit right now. Workers aren't getting paid shit if they can even find a fucking job. What was the last one? I forgot what the last one he said, but it literally, all of that shit is happening in the US. I'm telling you, bro.
Protests succeed or fail, whether they're justified.
niggas about to be out here moving like fucking, who the fuck about to be moving like, I don't even know. Fucking Brooke running around fucking talking about saying, yo.
Whether they can spark reforms or revolution, the message behind that flag is clear. It's not tied to one ideology or one nation or one political party. Instead, it represents something deeply human and universal. The belief that ordinary people can stand together, choose their own destiny, and refuse to accept a world that feels rigged against them. In the story of One Piece, the Straw Flag isn't a symbol of conquest. It's a symbol of freedom. It's a promise that no matter how corrupt or oppressive the world becomes, there will always be people stubborn enough, hopeful enough, and brave enough to challenge it. And that's exactly how it's being used today. When you see that flag in a crowd of protesters, you're not just seeing an anime reference. You're seeing a declaration that this generation refuses to be silent, that they're willing to fight for the future they were told they'd inherit but never got, that they believe in a world where community matters more than power, where justice matters more than tradition, and where you don't need permission to demand something better. And I think what's even more striking about this is that people...
Not to take away anything from this video, but I just had to point this shit out. Ill. He has this shit in his background. Ill. Nothing wrong with the video game, but ill. You need to change that. Get a 5, bro.
Carrying these flags aren't typically extremists or radicals. They're students, workers,
get a PC,
young parents concerned with their children's futures, ordinary people who are tired of watching their leaders ignore them. The flag they're all flying has become a way of saying, we want change, and we're not afraid to stand together to make it happen. However small one voice or one movement is on its own, in the broad strokes, these movements in general are starting to send a subtle message to governments, to corporations, and anyone who doubts the strength of this generation, that while you can dismiss individuals easily enough, you can't ignore millions of us united under a shared symbol and a shared cause. Maybe we don't have the cause part down, but I think the recurrence of this same flag, this same motif, is a sign that there is becoming a bit more unity among the younger demographics. That we're starting to look at the corruption and decay of our society, and we've gotten to the point where we're ready to do something about it. And that, in a way, is why this flag keeps showing up. Not because of the show it came from, but because of what it represents right now. A generation that refuses to give up, even when the world gives them every reason to. And when you really think about it, that's the heart of it. This flag keeps appearing because it's become the shorthand for a generation that's done waiting. A generation that's tired of empty promises, tired of inherited crises, tired of leaders who speak of the future while refusing to build one. It's a signal flare, a warning shot, a quiet but undeniable announcement that the world is changing, whether the people in charge are ready for it or not. Because behind every straw flag in those crowds, there's a story. Someone who grew up believing in fairness and opportunity and stability, and then had to face the reality that those things weren't guaranteed.
Facts. Dog, shut up. Shut up. I've been on the One Piece journey for I think about like 3 years. Or 2 years. But this year I think was the most that I've watched. And it clicked to me watching that newest episode, just like what this shit really means for real. Like what One Piece really is about. The message what I got from it. And it's like freedom, bro. Like that shit is fucking beautiful. And seeing how it's like so beloved and like how popular it's become is showing that like, bro, we're all feeling it, bro. We all see that shit and can correlate that shit to real life. The corrupt governments, bro. The niggas out here with fucking power and influence that don't deserve that shit. The niggas who fucking come into those places unfairly, and the people who barely have shit are just making by, and most of the time those people are just happy just getting by. And how those who try to sit there and do the right thing are punished for it, bro. Like it's crazy. And then you got a fucking group of kids, because that's all they are. They adults basically, but it's just a bunch of fucking kids on a fucking boat sailing the world, just chasing their fucking dreams. They want to punish them for that. Tell me that shit not what we fucking living in right now. Tell me it's not.
Someone who saw the systems they were told to respect fall short again and again. Someone who realized that they didn't stand up and demand something better, no one was going to hand it to them.
Facts.
And that's why this symbol resonates so deeply. It blends idealism with rebellion, hope with defiance, childhood imagination with adult responsibility. It's a reminder that even in dark, uncertain times, young people still believe in the possibility of a better world and are willing to fight for it. And maybe that's what's so inspiring about all this. These movements aren't perfect, they're messy, they're emotional, they're sometimes chaotic, but they're real, they're honest, and they're born from a place of wanting something better, not just for themselves, but for everyone who'll come after them. Because movements like these have always started this way. Quietly, symbolically, with ordinary people deciding they're done being spectators in their own futures. And every time this flag rises above a crowd, it's another reminder that change doesn't start in the halls of power. It starts on the streets, in the schools, and the hands of people who believe the world can be more than what it's become. And the thing is, once you recognize that, it becomes impossible to underestimate what we're witnessing. Because symbols don't rise on their own. They rise when enough people feel the same pressure, the same disappointment, and the same longing for change. They rise when an entire generation realizes that if they don't take the wheel, the road ahead is going to be decided for them. So when you see that flag, you're not just seeing frustration. You're seeing agency. You're seeing young people refusing to be passengers in a world that keeps veering off course. You're seeing the early echoes of a generation trying to reclaim its future piece by piece, protest by protest, voice by voice. And as these demonstrations spread, something else starts to emerge. A sense of shared experience. A recognition that even though these countries are separated by borders, languages, and histories, the struggles they face rhyme in a similar way.
Facts.
Inequality, corruption, censorship, economic instability, generational neglect. It's no wonder the same symbol keeps showing up. The problems are global, so the response has to become global as well. And maybe that's where the real power lies. Not just in the protests themselves, but in the realization that young people everywhere are waking up to the fact that their individual fights are part of a much larger story. A story about a generation that grew up connected digitally, culturally, and emotionally, and is now discovering what that connection can actually do in the real world. We're watching young people take the stories and values they grew up with, friendship, justice, courage, and loyalty, those things which you learned from One Piece, and translate them into action, into real pressure, real demands, real calls for accountability. Gen Z is refusing to inherit a world built on broken promises. They're refusing to let apathy be the defining trait of youth. And if this momentum continues, if this shared identity keeps strengthening, And these protests are not an endpoint. They're the opening chapter of something much larger, something that could redefine what civic participation looks like in the 21st century, something that could reshape how younger generations see themselves, not as isolated voices scattered across different nations, but as a global community with shared struggles, shared values, and shared determination. Because once people recognize that their frustrations aren't unique, that their hopes aren't isolated, it becomes much harder for anyone to convince them that change is impossible. And what's remarkable is that it isn't driven by power or wealth or institutional influence. It's driven by culture, by the stories we grew up with, the characters we admired, the ideals we absorbed almost without realizing it. It's driven by a generation raised on narratives about found family, resilience, standing up to injustice, and protecting the vulnerable. A generation that saw these ideas not just as fiction, but as something worth carrying into the real world. In a way, the straw flag is simply the vessel. The real force behind all of this is the collective will of the people lifting it. It's their exhaustion, their courage, their shared refusal to accept that this is just how things are. And as long as that will exists, as long as people keep stepping out into the streets, raising their voices, and lifting symbols to unify instead of divide, then there is always a potential for more than just protest. There is a potential for transformation. And maybe that's what scares the people in power most. Not the flag itself.
We want them to be fucking scared.
A generation that isn't content to wait its turn or follow the script or pretend everything is fine when it clearly isn't. A generation that grew up online, learned to see through empty rhetoric, and isn't afraid to call hypocrisy when it sees it. A generation that, despite everything stacked against them, still chooses hope over cynicism every time. If this is what the early stages look like, scattered uprisings, shared symbols, spontaneous unity, then imagine what it could become when these movements start learning from one another. When ideas start crossing borders faster than governments can respond, and when solidarity becomes not just symbolic,
bro, I'm gonna let him finish what he's saying.
But strategic. Because once a generation realizes its own strength, once it understands that its voice carries weight, its choices matters, and its unity can shift the world, then when the real change begins, that's when the future stops feeling like something imposed on us and starts becoming something we build together.
Facts, bro. Facts. And it's crazy because they're really trying to stop us from coming together. They have all these fucking distractions for us, bro. Bro, yo, oh my god, I'm about to get real fucking political. I don't give a fuck. Left and the right, fucking Democrats, bro, that shit is the dumbest fucking shit ever, bro. That shit is the dumbest. The two-party system is so fucking dumb, bro. It's so flawed in so many fucking ways, bro. Each side is playing like they're fucking beautiful angels trying to fucking help us, bro. They're both dog shit, funded by a bunch of fucking billionaires and corporations. They run the fucking country, my nigga. They run the fucking country, bro. Let me chill. I might cut some of that, but I can't articulate everything the way that I want to say it because I'm not used to like talking like that. But just hearing other people talk like this and talk about this shit, I love it, bro, because it's the truth. And like, it's just so frustrating seeing how much the truth gets fucking stumped on and abused and buried, and the only way we can change this shit that's going on is if we all come together, bro.
And if we're standing at the beginning of that shift, at the first tremors of something bigger, then it raises an important question for all of us watching this unfold. What happens next? Because symbols can open the door, but it's people who have to walk through it. Unity can spark momentum, but it's action that carries it forward. And this moment we're living in, this strange and unexpected convergence of culture and politics, frustration and hope, imagination and reality, it won't mean anything unless we choose to do something about it. The straw flag might have started as a piece of fiction, but the conversations it's inspiring, the solidarity it's creating, and the courage it's awakening, that's real. And it's a reminder that our government has more influence, our generation has more influence, more creativity, and more collective power than we often realize. But with that realization comes a responsibility. A responsibility to stay informed, a responsibility to stay engaged, a responsibility to recognize that we're not alone in the challenges we face, and that our voices are stronger when they rise together.
That's facts.
Because no single protest is going to fix everything. No single symbol is going to solve the problem of inequality or corruption or political stagnation. But the willingness to speak up, the refusal to stay silent, the decision to stand behind others, those are the seeds of every meaningful change humanity's ever seen. And maybe that's the real legacy of this moment. Not the flag itself, not the anime it comes from, but the discovery or rediscovery that ordinary people still carry extraordinary power when they act together. That we don't have to wait for someone older, richer, or more influential to give us permission to care about our world. This generation has already shown that it's ready to shape the future. The only question now is how far we're willing to go, and what kind of world we want to build along the way. So there's one thing I hope we take away from all this, it's that the future isn't some distant concept waiting quietly on the horizon. It's being shaped right now in real time, by the choices we make and the courage we show, and whether we're someone out in the streets holding a flag, someone organizing behind the scenes, or simply someone paying attention and refusing to look away, you're a part of the story. You're a part of this moment. And if we keep pushing, keep questioning, and keep standing together, then maybe years from now we'll be able to look back at this point, this generation, and realize that this is where things finally began to change. Not because we inherited a better world, but because we built one.
Facts.
Thanks, guys.
Bro, W fucking video, bro. 27K views 2 weeks ago. More people need to see this shit, bro. He said all that shit perfectly. Honestly, I don't got nothing to add other than the fucking just keep building on top of it. Cause that shit, I love shit like that, bro. Like just calling everything out, because this shit is not okay. We are going through the worst of everything right now. Food has never been this expensive before. Gas has never been this expensive before. The fucking price of houses have never been this high. Bro, we are going through it, and literally we're scraping by, bro. Like there's people out here with fucking master degrees that are struggling to find employment, bro. Nurses are fucking losing jobs. Like it's crazy. It's a miracle we can survive. Facts. Shit is just wild, bro. Again, shout out to Bull. Video gonna be in the description.
Get them going, coughing up the slugs. Niggas full of money, don't steal, it's not enough. Go against the clock,